You're seriously bringing this up again? Claire's voice sliced across the kitchen like a slap. He's my best friend, Adam. I'm not going to apologize for that. I stared at her from across the breakfast table, fingers tightening around my coffee mug. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting our tiled walls in soft gold. But the warmth felt fake, like a spotlight in some twisted stage play. He texted you at midnight, I said, barely keeping my voice steady. And you turned the phone face down. That's not friendship. That's hiding something. Claire didn't even flinch. She leaned against the counter, crossed her arms. It was a funny meme. God forbid I laugh without asking your permission first. I stood slow and stiff, the chair scraping the tile like a warning bell. You don't get to flip this. I'm not the one sneaking around. I'm not the one acting like I'm 12 texts away from an affair. Her laugh was short and sharp. You're being ridiculous. That word hit like a backhand. Ridiculous. I took a step closer. You've been texting him every night for weeks. You change your passcode. You call him when you're running errands, but forget to mention it until I find the call log. And every time I ask, you call me insecure. Because you are, she snapped. A grown man throwing a tantrum over a friendship. You need help, Adam. I slammed my palm on the table. Hard. Mugs rattled. Something inside me cracked wide open. Then leave, I barked. Go run to him. Call it what it is. An emotional affair at best. Claire narrowed her eyes. You think I'd choose you over someone who actually listens? Who doesn't sulk around the house like a ghost? I blinked, stunned. So that's what I am now. A ghost. She didn't answer right away. Just sipped her coffee deliberately like she hadn't just gutted me. And that's when I knew this wasn't about a meme or a friend or me being overbearing. This was about power. Her holding the reins while I begged her to drive straight. You're not scared of me being wrong? I said quietly. You're scared I might be right. For the first time, her eyes twitched just barely. But it was there. The tell. Wow, she muttered. You really are spiraling. No, I said, backing toward the door. I'm waking up. I grabbed my keys. My voice dropped low, steady and cold. And you should be scared of that. The door slammed behind me. The morning light followed me out like a lie unraveling. Outside, the air was crisp, clean, real. I sucked in a breath, fists clenched. Our marriage didn't just crack, it fractured, and all I could think was, I need to know for sure because if I'm going to walk away, I want to do it with my head high. The next morning, you'd think none of it had happened. Claire hummed to herself while flipping pancakes, swaying to some mindless pop song on her phone. The kitchen smelled like butter and maple syrup, comforting, ordinary. But I couldn't stop watching her like she was some character on stage, playing a role for an audience of one. She set a plate in front of me with a little smile, kissed my cheek like she hadn't all but dared me to leave the night before. So she said, sliding into her seat, we're doing a girls-only thing tonight. Just wine, movies, board games. Dana's bringing that weird goat cheese again. She laughed lightly, then bit into her toast. I watched her chew, nodding slowly. Her tone was airy, her face relaxed, but her eyes flicked toward me a little too often, like she was checking to see how much I believed. Girls only, huh? I said calmly, setting my fork down. That's nice. She smiled again. Yep, all of us. No guys, just catching up. I leaned back in my chair and let the silence stretch. Then, casual as flipping a page, I said, Amanda's in town. That name landed with a thud. Claire's butter knife froze mid-spread just for a beat. Then she continued, slower now. Amanda, your friend from college, Amanda. I'm home, I said. She messaged me out of the blue, said she's here for a few days, wanted to grab a drink. I figured why not. Claire looked up, forcing a small, polite smile. That's great. It's been a while. It had been a while. Years. Amanda was smart, sharp, the kind of woman who always saw through people. And Claire had never liked that. Jealous, maybe. Or threatened. Yeah, I said. We were pretty close back then. Remember study partners, library nights? She helped me pull an all-nighter before my capstone defense. Claire gave a tight laugh. You mentioned her once or twice. Oh, she mentioned you too, I added lightly, reaching for my coffee. Said, you used to glare at her every time she came over. Claire set her toast down. I didn't press, I didn't smirk. I just sipped my coffee, eyes calm. Let it sit. A crack had formed, and I saw it. The quiet tension in her posture, the way she wasn't chewing anymore. She was trying to smile, but her eyes had gone still. Anyway, I added, since you'll be out tonight with the girls, I figured I might meet up with Amanda. Probably nothing wild, just drinks, a bit of catching up. Claire nodded, slow and cautious. Sure, sounds like fun. I didn't say more. I didn't need to. Her act never broke, but I saw it. The way she washed the dishes more aggressively than usual. How she checked her phone 3 times in 1 minute. She was trying to stay cool, trying to calculate. Because here's the thing. Claire hated Amanda. Not because Amanda ever did anything wrong, but because Amanda was warm, unfiltered, the kind of woman who never needed to compete for attention. Because people just liked her, and I had just handed Claire a mirror. That evening, as she left for her girls-only party, she wore red lipstick she hadn't touched in months. Her perfume was heavier, her heels higher. Have fun, I said as she grabbed her purse. You too? She replied quickly, then hesitated. Tell Amanda I said hi. I nodded, holding her gaze. The second the door clicked shut, I exhaled slowly. I didn't actually plan to meet Amanda tonight. Not yet. But I'd baited the hook, and from the flicker in Claire's eyes, I knew she'd bitten down hard. I didn't leave the house that night. I didn't need to. Instead, I sat in the living room alone, the soft hum of the TV filling the silence, while I stared at a documentary I couldn't even remember the title of. My phone buzzed once. Probably Josh or Amanda, or maybe even a calendar notification I'd forgotten to clear. I didn't check it. I wasn't waiting on a message. I was watching the clock. Claire had left over an hour ago. She hadn't said much when she walked out, just flashed a quick smile and told me not to wait up. I had no intention of waiting. I let time pass deliberately. At 9:45, I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and walked back to the living room with a calm that didn't match what was boiling under my skin. That's when I picked up her phone. She'd left it on the armrest of the couch, not locked, not hidden. It was almost too easy. I sat down, opened her call logs, and scrolled slowly. No calls to him today, but 3 from the day before. One at 11:12 p.m., one around noon, and one marked simply as missed. I clicked the message thread. Nothing scandalous, not here anyway. But it was too clean, too careful. No emojis, no flirtation, just short clipped texts about errands, work, inside jokes I didn't understand. But the pattern was loud, too frequent, too fast. I stared at the last message she'd sent. Got the wine? You bringing the board game? That was sent to a group chat labeled Girls' Night. I checked the names. 5 women I'd heard of, and one that stuck out like a sore thumb. Blake, her so-called best friend, the one she defended like a wounded animal. The one she swore was just like a brother. He was going to the girls-only party. I stood up abruptly, needing to move. I paced the hallway twice before I stopped myself. No, not yet. Don't confront. Don't accuse. Not now. That would give her the drama she wanted. Something she could spin into. You're always looking for problems. Or why are you checking my phone again? No. I needed to be quiet. Calculated like her. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it, not an inch off. Then I walked upstairs to the bedroom and shut the door behind me. I lay awake for hours. I thought about the way Claire used to curl into my chest after long days. How she used to bring me my favorite tea when I was pulling all-nighters. How she used to ask about my dreams like she cared. And now I couldn't even recognize the woman who'd smirked at me across that kitchen. At 1:13 a.m., I heard the front door open. Soft footsteps. A pause in the hallway. I didn't move. I didn't give her the satisfaction of knowing I was awake. She slipped quietly into the bathroom. I heard her brushing her teeth, humming faintly to herself, like nothing was broken, like everything was fine. When she finally climbed into bed beside me, the mattress dipped gently. Her perfume still clung to her skin. Something new, sweet, vanilla, and something sharp I couldn't name. I kept my eyes closed. A moment later, I felt her shift closer, like maybe she was going to curl into me out of habit. But she stopped, hovered, then turned the other way. I opened my eyes in the dark and stared at the ceiling. I didn't touch her, didn't say a word. The next morning, Claire acted like everything was perfectly ordinary. She made coffee, danced barefoot in the kitchen to an old throwback playlist, and didn't mention the party once. "Morning, babe," she said brightly, handing me a mug. I took it silently, watching her. My hands trembled slightly, but I kept them steady around the warm ceramic. She chatted about traffic, work, and some dumb podcast she'd half listened to. And I listened. But I didn't hear her because, underneath her breezy tone, her energy was different. Edgy. She kept looking at me out of the corner of her eye like she was trying to measure something. Gauge it. She was wondering what I knew. That's when I knew for sure. I had her on the hook. She just didn't realize yet how far I was willing to reel this in. The cafe was quiet for a Friday. Just the occasional hiss from the espresso machine and the soft murmur of conversations behind chipped ceramic mugs. I sat in the back corner nursing a lukewarm coffee that I barely tasted. Across from me, Josh stirred cream into his cup like it was a ritual. He'd been my best friend since college. No drama, no flair, just a guy who always showed up. So he said after a beat, "You going to tell me what's been eating you alive lately, or are we just pretending you love this place for the ambiance?" I let out a breath, rubbing a hand over my face. "It's Claire." Josh's eyes sharpened. "What about her?" I hesitated. This was the part one hated. Saying it out loud made it real. "I think she's seeing someone." He didn't flinch, just nodded slowly. "The guy you mentioned a while back, Blake?" I nodded, suddenly grateful I'd vented to him once before. "Yeah, him. She swears they're just friends. But something's off. I feel it. The late messages, the evasive answers. Her whole vibe's different now." Josh leaned back in his chair. "Have you talked to her about it?" "Plenty. Every time she turns it into my problem, says I'm paranoid, insecure." He gave a dry chuckle. "Ah, classic defense." I went through her phone. I admitted. Didn't find anything solid, but I saw enough. Josh was quiet for a moment. Then he set his mug down carefully. "Listen, I wasn't going to say anything unless you brought this up, but I noticed something weird." My heart rate ticked up. "What?" He hesitated, then said, "A couple of weeks back, I was scrolling through Instagram. You know how it suggests people you might know?" "Yeah." "Well, I saw Claire. It said she'd unfollowed Blake." I blinked. "She what?" Josh shrugged. "Could have been a glitch. Or maybe she blocked him. But it stood out. I mean, if they're so close, a strange wave of something hit me. Hope, doubt, relief tangled in suspicion." "You're sure?" I asked, sitting up straighter. "Pretty sure," he said. "Didn't think much of it at the time. Figured maybe they had a falling out. But now it felt like a new thread. Claire unfollowing Blake. That wasn't nothing. That was a move. And it wasn't one she'd want me to know about unless she was trying to fix something behind my back. Was she guilty? Ashamed? Or had I misjudged her altogether? Josh was watching me carefully. Could be she's trying to make it right. Cutting him off. Doesn't mean everything's back to normal, but maybe she's starting to realize what she's risking. I didn't respond right away. The cafe had gone quieter. A barista yawned in the corner, and someone flipped a page of the newspaper 2 tables down. I looked at my phone. No messages, no missed calls. Maybe she was trying. Maybe I'd been wrong. But deep down, I couldn't shake the unease because Claire didn't do things without a reason. If she unfollowed him, it wasn't just because she felt guilty. It was because she thought I might find out. It was damage control. Still, for the first time in days, my pulse slowed just a bit. Josh gave me a reassuring clap on the shoulder. "Whatever's going on, man," he said, "you'll handle it." "You always do?" I nodded, offering a small smile. "Thanks." But inside, something still twisted because nothing in Claire's world was ever that simple. And I had a feeling the truth was still out there, just not where I'd been looking. Claire came back from the party just after 10. She walked through the door, humming some upbeat song I didn't recognize, her heels clicking softly across the hardwood. She tossed her coat on the entry hook, then drifted into the kitchen like she was floating. "Hey, babe," she called too lightly. "We didn't burn the apartment down. You can relax now." I glanced up from the newspaper. I wasn't reading, glad to hear it. She looked glowing, hair tousled but neat, cheeks flushed, eyeliner still perfectly in place. There was something off about her energy. It was too polished, too effortful, like someone overperforming happiness. "Wine was awful, by the way," she added, rummaging in the fridge. "And Dana brought those weird crackers that taste like cardboard. I need real food." I nodded slowly. "Girls only night, right?" "Yep," she replied, not missing a beat. "Same old gang." Her back was to me, but I saw the brief pause as she opened the fridge. Just a half-second freeze, a blink in her choreography. I didn't press, didn't throw out the name, didn't say Blake, didn't ask who really showed up. Instead, I turned a page of the newspaper and sipped my coffee, letting her stew in the quiet. The only sound was the hum of the fridge and the soft clink of glass. "You hungry?" she asked after a beat, her voice a little too casual. "No," I said. "Already ate." We didn't talk much after that. She made herself a small plate, sat at the counter, and scrolled her phone while chewing slowly. Her glances at me grew more frequent, but I kept my posture loose, my voice even. I smiled when she looked up. She wasn't sure how much I knew, and I wasn't going to help her figure it out. Later that evening, we brushed our teeth side by side like we used to, only now our reflections barely spoke. She caught my eye in the mirror once, then quickly looked away. In bed, I turned out the lamp and lay still. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Amanda. Hey, still in town? You around tomorrow? Let's catch up if you're free. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Not because I was surprised, but because something in me clicked. Claire stirred beside me, but didn't speak. I knew she heard the buzz. She always noticed. I didn't reply to Amanda right away. I just slid the phone under my pillow and lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. She was awake. I could feel it in the way her breathing shifted, too controlled. She was pretending to sleep. Good. Let her wonder because I wasn't playing defense anymore. The next morning, Claire was bright again, overly so. She poured coffee, kissed my cheek, and asked if I had any big plans. Maybe, I said. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, I replied. Might meet Amanda. She's still around. Claire blinked once. Just once. But her composure held. You guys always got along. I nodded. We really did. She didn't say anything after that. Just sipped her coffee and looked out the window like it held answers. But I wasn't watching the view. I was watching her reflection in the glass and the way her jaw tightened when she thought I wasn't looking. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was check. And I hadn't even moved my queen yet. I wasn't expecting to run into Troy that afternoon. We hadn't talked in months, not out of any bad blood, just the usual drift. He and Claire had been friends since college. His wife, Melanie, knew everyone in that social circle, too. I spotted him at the corner cafe near Main Street, balancing 2 iced coffees and a bag of croissants like he was reenacting a sitcom. We exchanged the usual nods and quick greetings, and he invited me to sit while he waited for Melanie to meet him. I accepted. Small talk filled the first few minutes. Work, weather, football. And then casually I asked, "Hey, Claire mentioned Dana's party the other night. You didn't go with Mel?" Troy furrowed his brow. Which one? Girls only, apparently. Dana's wine and board games night. His mouth opened slightly like something clicked. Then he laughed. Oh man, that party. Blake was there, right? He showed up late with a bottle of rose like some sitcom cliché. I felt it in my chest, a slow, spreading numbness. Blake. Yeah. Claire didn't mention that. I shook my head, careful to keep my face blank. She made it sound like it was just the girls. Troy frowned. Huh. I could have sworn I saw her talking to him for a while, thought they were all catching up. He sipped his drink completely unaware he just ripped the curtain down. I forced a smile. Probably forgot to mention. You know how it is. He nodded, oblivious. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, Mel's been trying to convince Dana to bring her weird goat cheese to the next thing. Apparently, it's a hit now. I don't remember much else of the conversation, just static. When I got home, the walls felt closer than usual, the air thicker. I stood in the hallway for a few seconds longer than I needed to, keys still in hand, door ajar behind me. Claire was in the kitchen again. That kitchen had become her stage, coffee in hand, humming to herself, pretending nothing had shifted beneath her feet. You're home early, she said with that same practiced smile. I nodded. Yeah, ran into Troy. Her smile didn't waver. Oh yeah, I said. He mentioned Blake was at Dana's party. There it was, a flash of something, a blink. Her breath caught for half a second. He stopped by. I didn't think it mattered. He wasn't there long, right? I said, leaning against the counter. Just didn't come up, huh? Claire set her cup down gently. It wasn't like that, Adam. I nodded slowly. No. Then what was it like? She opened her mouth and then closed it. The gears were turning fast. She knew she'd been caught in something she couldn't explain away this time. "We didn't plan it," she said. "He showed up. Everyone was surprised." I stared at her. Really stared. And in that moment, something finally broke. Not in her, in me. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I just breathed long and slow and saw the marriage for what it had become. An empty house filled with echoes of better days. "You've been lying?" I said simply. She shook her head too quickly. "No." Yes," I interrupted. "You have. You lied about the party. You've lied about him. And even now, you're more worried about how this looks than what it is." Silence filled the space between us. I picked up my phone, thumbed through my texts, and pulled up Amanda's last message. My reply was short. "Dinner tomorrow." Within seconds, her answer appeared. "Absolutely." I looked up at Claire. "I'll be out tomorrow night," I said, voice level. Figured I'd catch up with someone honest for a change. She didn't respond. Just stood there, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, like she didn't recognize the man in front of her anymore. Neither did I, but I liked this version better. Amanda looked exactly the same and somehow completely different. Same eyes, same laugh, same habit of tucking her hair behind one ear when she was nervous. But there was something else now. A calmness in the way she carried herself. Like life had tried to knock her down, and she'd simply stepped aside. We met at a small Italian place tucked between a bookstore and a closed-down theater. The kind of place where the lights were always a little too dim and the music a little too old school. Frank Sinatra hummed low in the background as I slid into the booth across from her. She smiled. "You look older." I laughed. "You look exactly the same." "Liar," she said, raising an eyebrow. "But I'll take it." We ordered wine and the conversation slipped into place like it had been waiting this whole time. We talked about college, the impossible professor's late-night coffee runs, the time she dragged me into a poetry slam just to experience discomfort. "You hated it?" she said, grinning. "No." I said I hated the guy who screamed about bees for 3 full minutes. Everything else was fine. She laughed, really laughed, and I realized how long it had been since I'd heard that sound. The real kind, not polite, not forced, not sandwiched between tension. Somewhere between the second glass of wine and the pasta showing up, the conversation shifted. I told her the truth. All of it. Claire, Blake, the lies, the gut feeling that had turned into a full-time weight on my chest, the emptiness in the house, the cold smiles, and the warmer silences. Amanda didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix anything. She just listened. And when I finally exhaled, her hand reached across the table, gentle, steady, and rested on mine. "You deserved better," she said. It wasn't the words. It was the way she said them. No pity, no judgment, just the quiet certainty of someone who meant it. "Do you think I'm overreacting?" I asked. Not because I believed I was, but because I needed someone outside the storm to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. "No," she said simply. "You waited longer than most would have." I nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about doing something. Going to this party Claire's supposed to be at next week. She doesn't know. I know she'll be there. I want her to see me. Not alone." Amanda tilted her head. "You want me to come?" I didn't speak right away. Just looked at her. Really looked. There was no manipulative angle in her eyes. No hesitation. Just sincerity. "Would you?" I finally asked. She smiled. "Gladly." We walked together afterward, just a few blocks. The evening air was soft, and the city buzzed around us like background noise in a film. "Remember how we used to sit on the campus lawn until 2 a.m.? she asked suddenly. And you'd bring snacks you swore were healthy? I said. They tasted like sand. They were chia oat bars, she said, mock offended. They were punishment, I shot back. She nudged me with her elbow. You needed grounding? You were all chaos and last-minute essays. Still am, I admitted. She looked over at me. Serious now. But you're not the same guy. You've grown. I can see it. That hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was flattering, but because I realized I had changed. I wasn't just trying to salvage a marriage anymore. I was trying to reclaim myself. By the time we reached her hotel, the sky had gone deep blue. She paused at the door, hands in her coat pockets. So, what's the plan for the party? She asked. I looked at her. We go in. We smile. We let her feel it. Amanda smiled. Sounds like a plan. I watched her disappear through the glass doors, then turned back toward the sidewalk. And for the first time in months, I walked without dragging my heart behind me. The party buzzed with low music and too many fake laughs. Claire stood near the patio, wine in hand, wrapped in a dress I hadn't seen in years. Deep emerald, elegant and calculated. It was the one she used to save for events where she needed to remind everyone in the room she still had it. She hadn't seen me yet. Amanda stood beside me, her presence like armor, calm, graceful, magnetic without trying. She wore a soft black dress, nothing flashy, but the kind of effortless beauty that draws glances without a word. And she held my arm like we'd been here before, like we belonged together. We stepped in. A few people turned, heads tilted, smiles flickered. It didn't take long for Claire to look our way. Her eyes landed on Amanda first, recognition flashing. Then they found mine and froze. Her smile faltered just a fraction before she forced it back into place. She excused herself from her circle and made her way over slowly, cautiously. Adam, she said, voice tighter than her smile. Didn't expect to see you here. I figured I'd stop by, I said casually. Catch up, celebrate. Her eyes flicked to Amanda. And you brought company. Amanda, I said, turning slightly. You remember Claire? Amanda offered a polite smile. It's been a long time. Claire's gaze sharpened. Yes, it has. There was a pause, brief but heavy. Claire's grip on her wine glass tightened ever so slightly. I looked around. Is Blake here? Her lips parted. No. Why? I shrugged. Just wondered if the guest list had changed. You know how parties go. She didn't answer, just looked at me, and then at Amanda. And I knew exactly what was happening behind those eyes. Math. She was calculating what I knew, how much I'd seen, and how much she could spin. I didn't realize you and Amanda were still close, she said slowly. I smiled. We've been reconnecting. It's been refreshing. Amanda rested a hand lightly on my arm. That small gesture shifted everything. Claire's voice lowered. Can we talk privately? No, I said gently but firmly. Everything worth saying is already in the open. Claire. Her face changed, a storm behind the eyes. She looked at Amanda like she was the problem, like this whole scene was some betrayal. But the only betrayal here had been hers. People were watching now. Not obviously, just curious enough. She realized it too. I leaned in slightly, voice calm. You can stop pretending now. Claire swallowed, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't have a comeback. Amanda turned to me. You ready to go? I nodded. Yeah. We walked out hand in hand. Behind us, I didn't need to look back to know. Claire was standing in the ruins of her own performance, and this time, I was the one walking away first. The house was silent when we got back. No music, no perfume, No lights left on his bait. Just dim hallway shadows and that heavy kind of stillness that tells you something's waiting behind it. Claire was already home. I could feel it in the air. The charge. The way the walls seemed to brace for what was coming. She was in the living room, seated on the edge of the couch like she'd been rehearsing. Her phone sat face down on the coffee table, wine glass untouched beside it. For once, she didn't wear anything curated. Just a simple tee, old sweatpants, hair pulled back. It made her look human. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded, sat in the armchair across from her, careful to keep space between us. Her eyes flicked to my face, searching for the usual emotion. Anger, disappointment, anything she could latch onto. She didn't find it. "Just tell me why," I said. "Not to fix anything. I just need to understand who I married." Her mouth opened, then closed. The words weren't coming easy now. That more than anything made it feel real. After a pause, she said, "I didn't mean for it to start like that." "Like what, Blake?" He listened. He laughed at things you'd barely look up from your phone for. He noticed when I cut my hair, when I changed something. And you couldn't just ask me to do the same. She hesitated. I did. You didn't hear it. That landed. I didn't react, but I heard it. "You mean I didn't hear you enough?" I corrected. "But you didn't try again. You just switched off and turned toward someone else." She winced. Not from volume. There was none. Just from truth. "It was only once," she said, barely above a whisper. "We didn't. I ended it before it could become something bigger." I leaned forward, elbows on knees. And the messages, the secrecy, the gaslighting when I asked. She blinked, eyes glassing over. I panicked. I thought if I admitted it, everything would explode. I thought I could kill it quietly. But the guilt just sat there like a guest you fed instead of asking to leave. Claire looked away. I thought I could control it, that I could keep everything in balance. "You mean you wanted both worlds?" I said. "Me? Steady, safe, familiar. And him? Exciting, fresh, validating?" She didn't deny it. I exhaled, not in defeat, just finality. "I would have forgiven the truth," I said quietly. "But you never gave me the chance. You just made me feel crazy for noticing the obvious." "I was scared," she whispered. "So was I replied. "Scared I was losing my mind. Scared that the woman I loved was slipping through my fingers. Scared that maybe I was broken. Turns out I wasn't." She looked at me then. Really looked. And her eyes, those same eyes that once lit up when I walked into a room, were brimming with something bitter and quiet. "Regret." "I still love you," she said. I shook my head. "No. You loved the version of me that didn't know, who stayed even when you lied." Silence stretched between us. "Are you going to leave me?" she finally asked. I looked down at my hands. "You left first, Claire. You just didn't walk out the door when you did it." Her breath hitched. "I'm not trying to punish you," I added. "I just don't want to keep bleeding in a house that keeps opening the same wound." Tears slid silently down her cheek. She didn't wipe them. She just sat there still like something inside her finally gave out. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I nodded. "I know. But that didn't make it whole again. Didn't make it enough." Claire stood in the kitchen the next morning, stirring her tea like it was the only thing keeping her upright. No music, no humming. Just the faint sound of the spoon circling the cup. "I made an appointment," she said without looking at me. I paused mid-step, coffee mug in hand. "For what?" "Couples therapy. Tuesday afternoon. Just one session to talk to Try." I stared at her back, the slope of her shoulders, the stiffness in her arms. The silence between us was no longer explosive. It was surgical. Every word chosen like a thread to stitch together something already dead. "You said it's over," she added. "But I want you to hear everything. I want you to understand where I failed. Where we both did." I sipped my coffee. Bitterness on top of bitterness. "And you think therapy will fix that?" She turned around slowly. "No, I think it'll explain it. You said you wanted to understand, so let me try." I nodded once. All right. That was all I gave her. But it was enough. The next 2 days passed like a scene played on loop. Quiet dinners, sure conversations, no fights, no touches. The house had become something sterile. An operating room where nothing lived but memory and precision. We moved around each other like two ghosts who once believed in forever. When Tuesday came, we drove to the session in separate cars. The office smelled like lavender and leather chairs. The therapist, middle-aged Kamaid, welcomed us like we weren't dragging emotional wreckage into her workspace. Claire did most of the talking. She spoke with trembling honesty, hands clasped in her lap. She admitted to the attention she craved, the way she felt overlooked, how she mistook novelty for meaning, how easy it was to lie when you frame it as self-preservation. "I thought if I told him," she said, eyes glassy, "he'd leave, and then I'd lose both things." So I convinced myself it wasn't really cheating, that I was still loyal. The therapist nodded, encouraging. And me? I listened. Really listened. Not because I hoped for reconciliation, but because I needed to close the chapter with every page read. I had to know the shape of the damage. Not to fix it, but to walk away clean. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice. "I would have fought for us," I said. "I really would have. But you never gave me the chance. You buried the problem in charm and deflection, and I buried myself trying to believe you." Claire wiped a tear from her cheek. "I miss you," she whispered. I looked at her, quiet and still. "I miss the person I thought you were." It ended with no screaming, no accusations, just a signature. The divorce papers came 2 weeks later, crisp and quiet. Claire left them on the kitchen table beside my coffee like some kind of peace offering. I didn't rush to sign them, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to sit with it, really feel what it meant to let go of something that had once meant everything. And when I finally did, it felt like closing the door to a house that had already been empty for a long time. The morning I left, the sky was bright but cool. I packed only what I needed. Clothes, a few books, some keepsakes that still held meaning. Everything else could stay. The bed, the couch, the wedding photo that had been flipped down weeks ago. Claire stood by the door as I zipped my final bag. She didn't ask me to stay. She didn't cry. Maybe she knew this wasn't a moment for begging. Maybe she'd finally accepted what I had long ago. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a memory trapped in a house. "I hope you find peace," she said, her voice soft. I nodded. "You too." That was all. No final hug, no dramatic pause, just goodbye. I drove for hours. No music. Just the hum of the road and the quiet drum of my thoughts. I didn't have a destination in mind. Just a direction. South. I ended up at a small beach town we'd once visited years ago, back when we were still laughing without effort and reaching for each other without thinking. I checked into a small inn by the water. The room was nothing special. Faded curtains, salt in the air. But it was mine, free of ghosts. That night, I walked to the beach with a beer in hand, the bottle sweating in the humid breeze. The sky stretched out in impossible shades of orange and pink, the sun dipping low like it was bowing out gracefully. and for the first time in what felt like years, I breathed without weight. No suspicion, no questions, no second-guessing myself in my own home. Just the sound of waves and the gentle hush of something ending. I pulled out my phone. No new messages from Claire. Nothing from lawyers or therapists or mutual friends trying to patch what was never going to hold. But there was a message from Amanda. Thinking about you. Hope you're somewhere peaceful tonight. I smiled, typed back slowly. I am. Then I put the phone away, leaned back in the sand, and let the sunset do what it does best. Signal that a new day is coming. And this time, I'd face it on my own terms.